Okay, Harold, when after the surgeon, after the journey, Harold is born again. Harold, you want to say something?
No, not really. But I think it's just different perspectives of things, and it's good to be able to be open-minded on various things. Given the fact that even what we practice today in terms of religion was brought to us, so why not listen to other opinions about it?
Harold went to the source of religion and he thought he needed to think twice.
not in that manner, really. But yes, just to give it a new lens, try to look at it from a new lens. Yeah.
Okay. That's good. I mean, that's good. I mean, it's part of growth, and it's part of adventure. It's part of experience, and it's part of exploring life.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, on that note, I think the best way to pray is to pray in our hearts.
Yeah.
Not really. I thought you were going to pray for us. All right. Then I can pray so that we can start.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's pray. We thank you, God, for the blessing of today. Thank you for this evening, and thank you for the Congress of Party of Kenya that has put us together. We thank you for part leader. We thank you for Victor who's here with us. We also thank you for myself who's here. As to begin, we pray for that you may be with us. For sisters who have not been able to join us, we pray that you may make it possible for them to be with us next time. As we begin, Lord, help us in the preparations. It's our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Okay. You know, transition is gradual.
Yeah.
Yes. Say hi. Hi.
How is the youngster?
This one is fine. She's just curious. Anaangalia nini naendelea lakini hataki pia kuona. Akiona macho za watu aenda basi kwa babu sasa.
I mean, these are very harsh eyes. Okay.
He also doesn't want to go.
I think you people all know the concept of the meeting. We just wanted to, have a reflection on our experience in COP26, Glasgow, Scotland. I think personally, I went as an observer. I don't know, Harold went as?
Observer as well.
And Victor?
I was also an observer.
Yes, so let's get your observations. Maybe, I think, Harold, you are new. This is your first COP.
Mm-hmm.
This is my second COP. What about Victor?
This is my third COP.
Wonderful. So I think, Harold, you will take us through your experience from your first COP. I might try to do my experience in my 2 COPs, and then Victor can do his experience in 3 COPs.
Well, in my first COP, I think going there, number one, I didn't have a lot to say expectations because I wasn't sure what I was going to meet. But with the Global Young Greens team, I was kind of prepared by, I was told you're going to speak on this event, you're going to be there for this event and all that in the green hub, and those were the things really I was looking up to. And now when I got there is when I learned that we have the blue zone, we have the green zone, and what is going on at different areas. So I think because I didn't have specific objective that I was going to achieve from the word go, I was not able to 100% take advantage of the fact that, to me, COP was more like a symposium, bringing together government and various organizations. That was really a major point of networking. I tried to do a bit of that, and I've just been trying to get in touch with those the networks I got, and I think it was a good moment networking for me, to say the least. And then I found the Green Hub quite engaging, though I'm not really a big fan of forums. You sit and talk, people talk. Those are not really my best areas. I love the action part when now we went for the protest. Now that one was quite interesting for me because we got to, what do you call it? Get to bring out our frustrations and anger on how climate change is being addressed. And then, of course, I can't underwrite the fact that I got to meet fellow young people who are doing a lot more, even in this field of climate change. And remember the conversation we were having with you, Mheshimiwa, on last week on Thursday, that I'm afraid there's a possibility that now and even in the near future, the fight for climate justice in the country might be a preserve of a select few who want to steal it and run away with it, and galvanize everyone else, regardless of what you're doing. And so I've just been keen on that, trying to read as much material as I can in the last few days, and trying to follow what's going on locally. And it was an eye opener for me. It was more of, what more can I learn about this? And that really was it, and also getting to tour Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What was your greatest disappointment?
My greatest disappointment, can I say? You see, when you don't have expectations, it's very difficult to get disappointed.
Yeah, you don't get disappointed.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know, Harold.
Yes.
I can't talk and take my own notes, so because I don't know what I'm saying. So please take for me notes if you hear say something worth noting.
Okay, I will.
First of all, you don't need to note anything about my first experience, and that's where I will start from. I think I attended the 2010 was COP what? COP16, I guess.
The what?
Yeah, I attended COP16 in Mexico, Cancun.
Yeah.
And it was my first COP. And I think I was overwhelmed by the sheer numbers, the sheer number of events that were taking place. But the good thing is that I attended one of the side meetings, and that time, I think I had a better designation because I was part of government delegation. And but I think I enjoyed much more of a side meeting that we had where we were discussing the causes of climate change. And the challenge was, what are you doing as an individual? And what are you doing as a family? What are you doing as a community? What are you doing as a nation? And that's when I got the idea to do something, and which was to form a political party, a green political party. So that's how I got the idea of forming a green political party. Now, fast forward, this time round, courtesy on the platform of Green Congress of Kenya, which made me part of the Global Greens, I applied to attend COP26, and I was selected among others. We had about, I think, 6 slots. I think we had 4 slots in Africa. One went to Egypt, one went to Rwanda, one went to Burundi, and one came to Kenya. Other slots went to Brazil and India and Venezuela. So we had 10 slots as Global Greens. And my slot was as an observer. So I went in as an observer. And I went there. Initially, I wanted to be there for 1 week, but after the full program by the Greens came up, I was slotted to speak on a few events, so I had on my stay. So I stayed up to 10th, and I left on the 11th. Now, reflecting on my experience in COP26, I went in as an observer, and I was wondering, what is an observer? My idea was that I was going to observe how the negotiations take place and how the meetings are conducted, how the business is conducted. But unfortunately, I could only access exhibition places. I could only access media, in the blue zone. I could only access the pavilion. I could only access the green zone exhibitions, especially the first largely the first week, until there was a complaint that we were locked out as civil society, as observers, as youth. I mean, everybody was locked out. It became a conference of parties exclusively. And I thought my role as an observer was undermined. I didn't get a chance to observe anything serious. Even though eventually it opened up, I was able to observe about 3 meetings. One of them was on loss and damage. And then the other one was on presentation by ministers. And as I attended those meetings, I hope this is Salome. Salome, good evening. Can you unmute yourself and say hi?
Hi. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I'm sorry I'm late.
But are you well?
Yes, I'm well. I'm doing great. How is everyone?
Salome is shouting, but she's fine.
I'm shouting. Anyway, I'm happy
Yes.
to see you guys. Yeah.
We are happy to see you.
Yeah. Thank you.
You know, my president is called Anne-Marie. Do you know Anne-Marie?
Yes. Yes, I know her.
You've met her personally?
Yeah. No, 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 no.
Okay.
Yes, yes. But we were in a meeting. We were in a meeting some time back, and she was.
Virtually?
Yes, yes.
Yes, we went with her to Denmark someday, I think 2019,
Okay.
I guess.
All right.
And while we were there,
Mm-hmm.
we saw some writing on the wall, hanging on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And the writing said, "It is hard to be a woman."
Why?
Because you just have too many things to do. And
Oh
you have to
my.
start.
And you have to balance everything.
Now I agree.
But I'm here then.
Okay, welcome. I think you have missed one bit.
All right.
Harold has just shared with us his experience. We are just doing reflection on our experience in COP26 in Glasgow.
All right.
Harold has had his go, so it is my turn. And you came when I was saying my experience as an observer at COP.
All right.
And I'm saying I didn't get an opportunity to observe, but eventually it opened up in the later days and I was able to attend 2 meetings. And when we were, I saw a meeting that in the tail end that was trying to now outline. No, before I go there, I attended a meeting that was dealing with loss and damage. And I listened to 3 presenters, the session chair, or the moderator rather, and I listened to the Prime Minister Barbados, the lady, who presented virtually because she had gone back. And I also listened to the COP president, Alok Sharma. Yes, so, and they were talking about a matter that I think I was passionate about, which is loss and damage. And the only person who canvassed my thoughts was the Prime Minister of Barbados. And what I expected was that meeting would pronounce itself into how to deal with loss and damages, especially in the global south, which has suffered thrice, which has suffered twice and is bound to suffer the 3rd time. But all we got were just words, nothing more. Plain words that didn't mean much. Because loss and damage requires financing so that we can rebuild the planet from the perspective of the global south that have suffered serious impacts of climate change. I saw somebody post in the Twitter that Africa only produces 3% of the global emissions. And I responded that, but Africa suffers or is a victim of 97% of the impacts of climate change. So that is the injustice that we are talking about, that we produce the least emission and we suffer the most of the impact. So my observation is that I didn't get an opportunity to observe as I would have wished to. And secondly, the meetings I observed did not address to my expectation, especially the loss and damage. Then the last meeting observed was the meeting that was now outlining basically what had been agreed. And I saw frustrations by people from the Global South, and my minister, Keriako Tobiko, was very eloquent on that and very pointed. I remember him saying that to Kenya, mitigation, adaptation, loss and damage, all are one and the same thing. And according to him, all they need is money so as to address the trio. But then, incidentally, after he spoke, John Kerry spoke. And John Kerry was supportive of the draft, word by word, something that gave me the impression that John Kerry could have authored the document, or at best, America had authored the document. And John Kerry was there to rally support for it. And incidentally, I even observed Obama speak, and Obama was just speaking the same language John Kerry was speaking. So I got the impression that the solution to climate change might not come from where we expect it to come. I think they're likely to continue to be the source of climate change rather than the solution that we expect them to be. Okay, having said that, I just want to add something. I thought again from my observation that this climate change is about, as we talk about climate change justice, climate justice, I think we should expand it to mean, I'm beginning to expand it to mean in my mind that we need to have intergenerational equity at the climate, at the COPs. Because people who are making presentations, I thought were people who are in their adulthood, and I mean, not adulthood, but who are mature people who are celebrating their lives, people who are not really worrying about their lives. Because the critical people at COP are the parties, and the parties are ministers and senior government officials. These are people who are in their 40s and above. And these are people who are just enjoying their life. They love the comfort that they are seeing, and they worry least about the future. I think a proposal needs to be brought forward whereby the composition of COP parties should reflect the global, what is it called? The global, it should reflect the age variation on the globe. So that if 65% of the people are under 40 years, then at least 35%, we can now reverse that and say at least 35% of the parties to the COP are under 40 years. And that should go to every country, so that when every country is constituting their parties, then we blend that so that we can capture the thinking of the youth at the negotiating tables. I'm not sure how that is captured, but I think it is imperative that that is done if we are to have people in the room who truly worry about their future. The last thing that I observed is the big gap between where we are and where we want to get to. I think the gap is just too big. And the efforts that we are making, I don't think within the timelines that we have, we are not going to fill the gap. And the big gap that I'm thinking about is we need to transit from fossil fuel to renewable energy. And we take cognizance of the fact that our economies run on energy, and we cannot have economies without energy. And currently, I think fossil fuel constitutes a very high percentage of this energy. I think in the region of about 75%. And if we are to save the planet, then we need to transit very fast to renewable energy. And that requires massive investment. Now, the people who are least prepared to transit are the poorest. And I think that's a big challenge whose solution I'm just trying to put my head around, and I'm not sure if I will ever. For example, Germany, that is one of the most developed countries, I think is still very far from getting its transition to renewable energy. So Kenya is lucky because we enjoy a lot of renewable energy sources, from geothermal to hydro to solar to, I think we are at about 82%, if not 92%. I think 92% renewable. It is only a few unscrupulous business people who are making our life difficult with their independent power production, which is the thermal based. Other than that, I think our energy sources are industrial energies and home energy sources are renewable. But our transport system, I think, has a lot of fossil fuel, be it rail, be it road, be it air. And I think that is one area that we really need to work hard on. But that we cannot do on our own. That requires investment, huge investment. But again, sometimes we lack commitment to these treaties that we sign. I don't see how Kenya could have been a signatory to the Paris Agreement and still go ahead to license the coal mining in Kitui, the coal plant in Lamu. I mean, it's a contradiction. And we have a diesel engine train with an investment that should have given us an electric train. So that's the gap that I'm wondering whether we will ever fail. I think maybe those are my experiences in COP. I can leave it there. Now, Salome, now that you've heard me, I think now you have an idea what you're talking about. Because Victor has a very long story. 3 COPs put together. I know you just have one.
Yeah.
How many days were you there?
Let's say a week.
A week.
5.
5 days.
5 days apart from the side events that we had at the green hub. Apart from that, it's 5 weeks at COP.
Salome,
5 days, 5 days at COP.
how many days were you in Scotland? That's the question.
The days. Yeah.
Thank you, Harold.
You were there for a long time. Apart from, we were there around.
You were there for 15 days because you traveled on 3rd, right?
14, yeah?
You traveled on 3rd, came back on 18th. So you were there 15 days. Yeah.
Oh, 15. No, it's 14. 14 because the last day is for traveling. Come on.
Okay.
It means I was there. I was there longest.
Anyway, 15 then. Okay.
Very well.
No
All right.
problem.
Okay. Let's hear your experience.
My experience.
Or your reflection.
On everything, on the whole stay on COP.
You have your time. You share what you want to share. But don't forget about the COP.
Yeah, definitely. That was the main objective for us to go to Scotland. Yeah. One thing I learned is that we have to reorganize ourselves. Let's start from there. We have to reorganize ourselves on if we ever send people or if we ever go to future COPs, let's always do things in advance. Like for me, I got late because I didn't apply my visa early. So that is something that we should observe, that we have to be organized. If we want to attend these things, we have to be organized and do our paperwork on time. Secondly, let's get the information beforehand, because that helped us with the Harold. We got to know which meetings we were supposed to speak at. We also got to know what activities are going on with the app that we had, and which was helpful. Like for me, that was helpful. So it's important to also get information beforehand. At COP, I got to attend various side events, and also got to attend the African Day. I'll start with the side events. I got to interact with various young people from various countries in the world, especially from the global south. And you could see how young people have projects that are really are very impactful in their communities. That is one thing that I also saw that we are lacking as GCK. We don't have projects that we are doing back here at home as a party, which is something that I realized that we don't have. What are our, apart from us being a party and advocating for the green agenda, what projects do we have? What projects do we do? That is something that I observe that we don't have, and we should probably start having, because it's important also to showcase these projects when we go to COP. It's important to show people what we are doing. Yes, we are the ones facing the impacts of climate change, but what are we doing? We also have to have our own contributions. So yeah, I got to interact and got to see how other.
Let me not disrupt your flow of thought, but just illustrate, what did you see other green parties doing there that we are not doing?
not actually green parties. Now this one is at the COP that I got to, not green parties, other organizations, what they're doing. There was this young girl from India she's actually 12. She's doing a project on paper, on plastics. For them, it's not illegal to have plastics. It's not yet a law. But she has this project whereby she goes to the dump site and helps in collecting the garbage. Being such a young person with such kind of a mindset is very, coming from a young person, that's quite a challenge, because for us, what do we have to showcase? But I was there and I was like, okay, if I was told to speak up on a project that I'm doing back at home, what would I speak about? You see, that is it. There's also a young girl who is making plastic, what do you call this? Reusable mats and what do you call this? These mikekas. Oh man, baskets.
Mats.
Yes, mats. She has that project to advocate for greening in her community, which is very encouraging. And I was challenged because these are young people. People are not barely 15 doing these projects. What are we doing? Also, we have to also include our projects with teenagers. All of us who went there, we are over 20. Did we have a representation from young people? Did they have a voice? Do they have a voice in our party? That is also something we should look at, because it's important. Because I remember there was a caller that was sent for teenagers to go and speak. I don't know if you guys saw it, to go and speak at a certain event, but we didn't have one. The whole green didn't have a teenager, by the way. I didn't see a teenager in our global greens. I didn't see a teenager in the global young greens. Yes, so that's also one thing I observed. Something else, once I attended the African Day, that was attended by various speakers spoke, and something I got to learn is that as much as we are advocating for financing, we also have a role to play as Africans, as people from the global south, because we cannot be relying on their finances. What are we doing back at home as individuals, as a team? We also have to invest in the knowledge that we have. What can you do as from your culture? What did your grandparents or indigenous know? What did you do? What are people doing back at home that can help us adapt and mitigate to climate change? Investing in indigenous knowledge is very important. Also having the bargaining power. Let us go there. Let us have a voice. Let us tell them we have, is it yesterday? There was a lot of flooding at Westlands. We are facing the effects of climate change ourselves. We have to have a voice. So we have to use our bargaining power to ask for these finances. Yes, there are finances, yeah, but would we have a voice at COP to speak about the effects we are facing?
I mean, also, what is our, I'm not getting that. Which bargaining power are you talking about that we have?
That we are not being represented well at COP. Can we push for that once they are giving out these accreditations, can we push that people from the global south or people from Africa are represented at COP? Actually, I was disappointed to see that the people who are speaking are people from the global north.
Every country is represented.
Yes, it's represented, but are they having a voice? Are they speaking? Are they speaking at those negotiation tables?
They are because
are they?
The way that thing is structured.
I think probably what Salome might be alluding to, there's always a concern about the quality of the party delegations, and what are we just sending delegations? Are we sending voices to that table, yes, or are we sending quality? Because if you look at, I was going around and I was looking at the party offices, because normally the parties have offices outside where the technical teams will be quickly working on, the negotiations are going on, but their teams, backroom teams, working and checking on the text. Even looking at the text and seeing how that bodes with their positions. So what quality of participation are we taking? We have delegation. Countries like ours cannot afford to have like over 50 government delegations. What specific output does these delegations we are sending have? Because even sending a big delegations, to me, that's a large carbon footprint already for a country the size of our economies. So yes, we need to send delegations, but what quality of delegations are we sending?
Yeah.
Well done, Victor.
Yeah.
Okay, let Salome conclude.
Yes. So that is what I meant. Are we sending people who are? Yeah, pardon?
I hear you.
Yes, that was my concern. Are we sending people who are really facing it, or people who are just there to, spend time? So that's the beginning. But let's send people who are really facing it, who can really tell the story firsthand. Let it not be that you heard somewhere. No. Let it be from people who are really facing it. Also, the other thing is also keep our allies close. Let's network, or let's have people who are for us, who are going to support us in airing out our views, because we cannot go to air our views and we don't have people who are supporting us. Let us be allies, let us network with people who are for us. And yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it for me.
Okay, what was your biggest expectation?
My
biggest disappointment? Those two.
My biggest let me start with the negative. My biggest disappointment is that we the youth did not have enough support. We were not given room, or we were not involved in the negotiations. We were like, for us, the GYG were given less accreditations. Whereas we are the ones who are being affected. Actually, Mheshimiwa, your generation we are the ones who created, I would say the generation from the global north of your age created this mess, but we are the ones who are suffering it. So we should have a voice at those negotiation tables. We should have more representation at COP as youths. Yeah, this is how we are going to get empowered. You see, like the way I got to interact with young people, got to know what projects they're doing in their countries. I got challenged, and I know what we can do back here in Kenya. You see, we get exposed to get to learn what others are doing. My biggest expectation my biggest disappointment is that we were underrepresented as the youth, and we face a lot of challenges getting there. And my biggest expectation was that I would see a better partnership between the global north and global south. We didn't get what we wanted. We didn't get the finances. They did not commit. They said that they are going to they're not going to phase out the carbon plants, but they are going to try and reduce them. That is not effective. That's not going to help us, because we are still facing the effects. So my biggest expectation was to come out there with better opportunities for young people to come up, to invest in research, to be educated, to be trained, because those people have the technology. They have the technology to come and teach us on how to adapt and mitigate to climate change. But we have the skills, but we don't have the technology. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think we applaud that experience. It must have been a great experience, but you have not gone outside COP. I know you had a lot of experience outside COP, but that's for another day. Yeah. Let's get Victor.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, this was my third COP. I think the first COP was not so much. It was in Copenhagen. I think that was COP15. I was pretty young then at the time. I was just
excited to see people.
Yeah, excited to see people, and being the early days of Young Greens, because we just had our Global Young Greens first meeting in 2007. Then in 2009, then we went to Copenhagen. So we were part of the people marching. And I think at the time, President Obama had just come to power, I think a year before. And there was a lot of expectation in the world that things would start moving in the right direction. And at the time, I think it was more for me was just meeting new young people, seeing the world in multiple perspectives from different places. Like Carol just alluded earlier on that sometimes you open up your mind and you see things in a different way. I think it was, to me, the beginning of the growth for seeing a world that has many possibilities. That was my first COP, and not so much really I picked there, but of course, knowing that people can work together and pull together, be it resources or the commitment to work towards a better world. So my second COP was in Poland, Katowice, and that's what brought my interest much was, I think, loss and damage as well. It's how can we be compensated for the damages, for the losses that we suffer? We as communities, we as people in the developing world, we are at the front lines of these disasters when they happen. And like Mheshimiwa has alluded, we pollute the least. So what can be done as part of reparations? We suffer, yes, and we know the consequences of this as a result of historical emissions that may have been there before us. So it's something I've been following up. I was so disappointed from COP26 that there was not an agreement made on the funding for this facility, and it's something I am still tracking on, and I want to see, hopefully next year in Egypt, this will get more traction. But I think the mere fact that this had sessions dedicated to it and more conversations around it, it shows that the issue is gaining traction. But what I want to see more is, I think the people who suffer most are the people from the developing countries. And like Salome has said, the quality of our representation, people who go to the table to discuss these issues, how well do they put the case for us? And how much more do we need to push? Or can we have a movement sort of to bring the voices? Sometimes the voices on the streets bring the voices in the boardroom to bear. I've seen this change a lot after the Fridays for Future movement. There's a lot that moved towards acknowledging that something really needs to be done. And for the very first time, I think in this COP26, I saw a text on acknowledging fossil fuels, coal as key and central to climate change. Although eventually the text was watered down. Initially, the first text was phasing out coal and fossil fuels, but I think after negotiations, and I think a lot had was brought to bear by countries that still have large reserves of fossil fuel. So they told, like, we need to work progressively. But for the very first time, this has been mentioned, and it is in the text, although it was watered down eventually in the agreement, but it's good that we had a text. My key takeaways, the 5 key takeaways from COP26 was the mention of fossil fuel as a central factor in climate change. And the lack of an agreement on the fund was also a highlight for me, loss and damage. COP26 also kept the promise for 1.5 degree alive, although I was expecting COP26 to operationalize the rulebook for Paris Agreement in countries and governments making firm commitments and towards limiting the rise to lowering lowering to 1.5 degrees. But I think there's there's an agreement that governments by the end of next year, 2020, must submit proposals on what they need to do towards their 2030 targets. So I think this still keeps the 1.5 degree alive. The other thing is, I think I was very, very impressed to see the number of young people who came in on as observers, not of course in the negotiations, but the interest that they generated and the side events that they took part in, and the discussions they had in what they really want to see. So it's very encouraging that the generation that will live with some of these consequences are getting more and more serious and really looking forward and wanting to follow these conversations. So yeah, it was such a mixed COP, but I think given what we have gone through over the past years with COVID and the restrictions on travel, I think it was UK really managed to pull something out of this. I didn't see this happening in the scale that it happened, but I think they tried bringing all those people and the restrictions and managing the events with COVID and the need just to keep people safe as well. I think that was, to me, very excellent. Outside the COP, normally when I'm in this event, I'm also interested in just picking up the conversations with communities around these places. I lived in a place called Lags, about 53 kilometers outside of Glasgow. And in the evenings, I sat with some Catholic nuns, some of them who come from the area, and we were having discussions about what their perspectives are and vis-a-vis the globalization. And there were concerns about war as also a factor in climate change. And they really gave very interesting observations that military technology, and no one really takes a look at what, for example, British aerospace is doing in terms of what they produce and their exports. Where do these end up in? And what are the effects of their exports to the countries because most of these exports go to countries like Saudi Arabia and the Middle East. So what are the effects of these exports? It's normally to foment conflicts in these regions. And what happens? The return is always more migration to the West and the problems that come with it. So those are some of the conversation I had with the local people, and yeah, of course, tried to see a bit of nightlife in Glasgow. Then after that, I left, went to London a little bit to see friends, and then I was at Oxford. I also had the opportunity to meet with the local councillors at Oxford and the Oxford mayor for conversations on green politics and what are they doing and the conversations they're having around the politics and the place for green politics in the world and locally vis-a-vis what us to expect also. We had discussions about our local elections next year and how it is also a challenge sometimes to propagate the green agenda within local politics and still get traction. So yeah, that was my experience in the UK, and yeah.
That's huge. That's huge, Victor.
Victor, I wish I had the wisdom you had. I would have also traveled to the north of Scotland with my travel pass before it got. But anyway, that's a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
Okay, I think this was just an opportunity to share experiences and do a little reflection. I don't want to overstretch it. I think just for noting, I think what I enjoyed most was the match. I think that was my best experience.
Same case here, yes.
Excellent, excellent.
And I think we did learn from the matches and how we can create excitement. I think I saw your tweet, Harold, how you are saying that maybe we need to preserve our planet the same way we preserve our teeth. But
Yes.
I think we should lead in creating awareness on the importance of matching. I think we still don't know the essence of matching, and people wait to be bribed to come out and match. So
you know, the most interesting thing, I was in Sweden some time back. So we were doing something within the Swedish parliament. Then as I stepped out for lunch, I saw one middle-aged man with a banner, actually a placard, and I think he was saying some few things in Swedish. I didn't really get the hang of it, but then I was just curious, and I asked one of the parliamentary handlers who we were with at the time, and they said, what he's saying is he's coming from a small village in Gothenburg. It's a fishing community, so they have issues with how the fish industry is, so they needed attention. Then within minutes, I think one of the MPs came down, and then there was a press guy coming, and it was already a story. And in the evening, I saw it on as a news item. So sometimes it takes just one person to make to bring this attention. You don't have to wait so many people. It could be like 5 people, but you as long as you're not disturbing any peace, peacefully organized and placards. You've seen those people who write and they say, I am a graduate of this, I need a job. And in a few days' time, those people probably would have been given some job offers.
Yeah, I think this is a lesson that we needed to carry home. The other lesson I carried home was the beauty of city planning. I mean, you just get to Glasgow and you see plans in place. You have enough space to walk, you have enough space to ride, you have enough space to drive, you have enough space to train, to travel by train. You know, I thought I would never go into my car when I come back home. I tried and have no space to walk.
You are walking to the Green Hub.
Yes, the way I was walking to Green Hub and back. I mean, yeah. Okay. I think maybe unless somebody has something to conclude, I think we want to leave it at that point.
I spoke with Marlin when I was in the UK, and we were just catching up and on a few things and what we guys are doing as Greens locally. So she said if we have time, in one of, I thought I could get her in this meeting, but I didn't manage to find her. We can have her in one of our Zoom meetings so that we can also share ideas, especially now that we are going to the elections. If there's any help we might need from her experience in working around our campaigns, she's welcome to contribute in some ways. So she will join.
That's very important, Victor. I think we need somebody we can work with that can, on the background, energize our campaigns through technical support. You know, we like fumbling a lot about issues, but we need to take local issues into context and pitch them in a manner that is coherent and meaningful. I think we need to, I'll organize a Zoom and then we'll bring her on and then we share which areas she can be of assistance. I remember I don't know, Victor, whether you are there. You remember the lunch we had in Lovington?
Yeah, the climate networking lunch. I saw you drop a message on that WhatsApp group. Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
And Nane responded.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's keep that conversation going.
Yeah, absolutely.
And probably we could bring on Marlene online.
Yeah.
Okay, Harold.
Well, Victor, you really had some good points there from your takeaways. I only managed to write, I think, 3. I think you wrote them somewhere. You may share that with me on WhatsApp so that I really get to look at them.
Okay.
I don't know if Salome is still there, but I just wanted to point out to her that, from the way we went to COP as observers, not much could be achieved in our roles, as you had noted, Mheshimiwa, in terms of the negotiations and etc. And most importantly, ours would have just been to network and build, get the right people who are able to help us as a party. But again, as we've learned this, and I like the fact that Salome has noted that we need to have projects as a party or as individuals.
You have muted yourself. You are miming. Can you unmute yourself, Harold?
Yes, you can hear me.
No, we
Someone
couldn't
was
hear you.
good. Yeah, so I'm saying that, as we went as a political party, and
yes,
the first project we can take there is our involvement in policy and enhancing the democratic space, increasing the participation of youth and women and persons with disability in the political space in Kenya, and also in green politics. But again, you've realized that the potential there is huge. The space there is large because no one really monitors what you do. There's no one who's put a ring on your neck that you do this. So I think as we prepare for the next scope, we can have individual projects or group projects or projects that you can now go shop as a person. Number 2, I also don't got to go through the Global Young Greens. So I don't know whether there's a guarantee that next year we'll still go there. But if we plan early enough so that we have guarantees in good time, Egypt is not far and we can try even sponsor ourselves if need be. But then I know we need to have that conversation so that we get to have more impact into the future. Otherwise, I'll write minutes based on what we have shared and share to the group so that we'll be able to see for reference.
Okay, that's great, Harold. I think it is important to have these meetings, and think sharing thoughts will never end. I mean, there will always be new things that come that are very interesting. I wish we could, Harold, you remember we said we need to have a Zoom, intercontinental Zoom. We need to get Snegda, we need to get Fabiana, we need to get Alejandro, we need to get those people you were with. I mean, yes. Okay, let's see. Your last thoughts, Sally?
Yeah, the only person I didn't get to hear his thoughts was Harold. But I am sure since we were up and about most of the time together, I'm sure I can resonate with what he said. Well, I'm happy to hear that individually we got to experience, and I'm happy that Mheshimiwa, you thought about this meeting so that we also get to know what happened on the other side where we were not able to access or go to. And it is very important actually to have this kind of meetings. It keeps us on toes also, it keeps us going, keeps us working, and also being accountable. It's very important that we don't forget that we owe it to the party to move forward, because after us, the networks we build right now is what is going to push the future, the people who are going to come after us. So it's important, even as we continue with what we're doing, it's important to remember that we are creating a way, or we are opening doors for the other people who are going to come behind us. It's important, even as we network, make sure that we are taking our party to another different level every time. So even as we prepare for the next COP, even from this COP, the networks we got, let us share the networks. Let us bring something to the party. You know, if you hear there's a training here and there, let's put it out there to the party. Let everyone get educated and all that.
By the way,
I'm happy.
Sally, did you go to the green zone?
Yes, I did.
What was the experience in the green zone? What did you enjoy most? I mean, what
The
did you?
science and the technology is mind blowing. Oh my goodness, these people. I wish our government, because I'm sure there are people who have this kind of knowledge and skill. What they don't have is a backing or support from it.
I'm sure all of you remember, we used to have, I don't know if they're still there anymore, science congress projects.
Yes,
so
in high school.
Ideally, cutting edge technology comes from the cottage industries. There's the small school projects.
Yeah.
So when these small projects are funded, and there's like seeds, they're funded and they're improved. And some of them are projects for final year students at the university. So can those be incubators for the green future?
You know, you are the last to have come from school. I mean, is Science Congress still there?
Yes, it's still there. It's still there. And what the government is not doing is taking, people take Science Congress as something just for high school people. But this, the knowledge, the science behind it, if it can be invested on, I'm sure. Oh my goodness, the green was so awesome. Oh my God.
Every time I'm at COP, those presentations, and those are amazing, because you see ideas that, like, they're small ideas, but I mean,
when I speak of technology, the science over there is mind-blowing, I'm sure. And what I was, as I was going through every stand at the green zone, I was like, why can't the government invest in such kind of, you said like the guy who came up with a tuk-tuk that is driven by solar. People took it very lightly, but that is a very big project that the government should invest in. What the government does is just that it politicizes everything, doesn't invest in research.
That is why I was saying the quality of the people you send in these delegations really matters. Yes, I would have wanted to see Joe Musheru, the Minister for ICT, for example, in this delegation. And because it's one big leap on technology to renewable energy. And I mean, you can make a quantum leap these days. You don't have to really reinvent the wheel. You look at what is here, and I mean, look at even the agricultural shows, for example.
Yes.
They used to be very vibrant, and, ways of life.
When government officials go to these functions, they normally carry a lot of per diem, and there is not enough time to do shopping. So to expect them to go to green zone is an overstretch.
And they were, trust me, shopping. They were really shopping, because I would see people in the malls buying stuff. It's not buying stuff, but I mean, it flies against the very tenets of, consumerism is what drives more. I mean, that's a sustainable economic model. The more we buy, I mean, like, sometimes you don't even need to buy some of these things you're buying. I mean, how do you carry so much chocolate back to, I mean, like, some of these things you can buy in our local supermarkets. And I mean, from an eco perspective, it doesn't make sense to me. So we have, and that is why you see, Mheshimiwa, you have people signing the Paris Agreement, and they give concessions for call licenses, because to them it's another project. There's no that coherence of policy and philosophy that if we are eco-oriented, we cannot be doing coal. But to them, it's a concession. The government is creating jobs.
But then I would just love to come in there, Victor.
Yeah.
Most of these government guys, you know, the people they are very transient in the sense that someone was just appointed a minister for environment maybe a year or two ago. They don't have passion for environment, but because there is COP26, they come, and we can't expect to get a lot of results from such kind of people, as opposed to someone who's been in the civil society or civil society space for maybe 20, 30 years doing the same thing. You'd expect a lot of commitment and passion, and you know. And so for me, I look at this more like there's a lot of mismatch, especially from the government side. The people they send to negotiate or deliberate mass environment, some of them lack the know-how. Most of them are not passionate about environment. And so we don't get the results we need to get in the community, we need to get, you know, in the short and the long run. That's why people just come into shop.
Harold,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And you, Ash, did you meet the government delegation, especially from Kenya?
I met Governor Nyong'o, and I also met Silas Tekakimba and the team. They were coming in as climate policy guys. So I asked him, now, I've never seen you in climate in Kenya. Why are you here? He's like, oh, climate policy, I tell rubbish. Anyway, I just got to listen to him, and that was it.
I think it's
okay, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's enough for the evening, or unless somebody, we will pick it up another day.
Yes, and Mheshimiwa, one last thing, maybe we can have like a green incubation center. Maybe something you can think about it, you know. It's good to have such kind of, you know.
Well, I think the best thing is to make suggestions in writing so that we don't forget them.
All right.
Yes,
Okay.
and Salome, you have to, why don't you just take that and run away with it, as Meshme would always say. That is your project. So as we join you.
All right. All right. Okay. This will need your support, because this is what I was talking about earlier about technology. Taking this, trying to bring the green, attending these science congresses and taking the green projects and incubating them, inviting investors, you know, with the consent of the person who came up with the project. You know, it's also a way to encourage green ideas and green things that help us in mitigating climate change. That's what I'm saying.
The government is doing that, isn't it?
Okay.
But why are we not having some of this at COP? Maybe cutting edge. Because we need like local solutions. Sometimes I think they really, you see the way we came up with M-Pesa and how M-Pesa has gone global.
But you know, I called the director of climate change, Pacifica Ogola, and way ahead of time. And I asked her, how are Kenyans going to COP meeting? We need to read from the same page as we leave our country, and as we go to COP, we need to be reading from the same page. Are there any preparatory meetings that is used to brief Kenyans going to the delegation on the status of Kenya insofar as Paris Agreement is concerned? Then she said, oh yeah, let me see if I can put you in the mailing list. And that was just it. The next time I was only seeing her on Twitter. You know, it is important that you consolidate people coming from a country, be they part of government, be they part of civil society, be they just people who are interested in COP, should get a briefing ahead of their travel so that they know the position of their country, they know the teams that their country is sending. I mean, you can find a way of slipping an idea even into the negotiating table. But And when they were there, I asked them, where's your office? Where are you? Where's your pavilion? And for those who got them, where were they?
They didn't have, there was no pavilion. I asked.
So you were meeting them in the streets, in the corridors?
Yeah. I think most of these discussions were done from their hotel where they were residing. They didn't have,
myself.
yeah. We looked for the Kenya technical team. I could even see small countries. Rwanda, for example. Oh, Rwanda is doing amazing stuff.
Had a huge presence.
Yeah, I mean, those guys are serious. And it's not like we cannot afford. I think our priorities normally would be flying in a different direction.
I think this is nice. This can go endlessly. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and for your reflections.
Thank you.
Harold, you can summarize and then put it on our wall. We see what we were able
I will.
to
If you took any notes, just share with me on WhatsApp. Maybe just take a screenshot. I'll appreciate.
Okay. Right. I'll send you my notes.
Okay. Thank you. See you all. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. See you again.
Bye.
Bye.